Hello, welcome back to Woodland Life, where today we're going to fell a tree. Now, just so we're very clear what we're on about, this is fully with permission from the Forestry Commission and the local council. I'll go into the details of that later on, but just so we're clear from the start, there are 3 trees, let's call them tree A, tree B and tree C, that need dealing with at the moment, and today what we're going to do is fell tree C. So I think the next thing is let's take a look at all those trees, and then we can get into the nitty-gritty of the allowance, so the permission I've gained to be able to make those trees safe and fell them. So this is tree A. As you can see, it is hanging. That means it is caught up in another tree. It's also dangerous as it's across a track, and that's what's known as a hanging tree. It's fallen down, and it is hanging in a other tree. Eventually that will rot and fall onto the land, onto the ground, and as it's against a track or across a track, that's dangerous, so it has to be made safe. As you can see at the bottom of this one, if I can get up there without slipping over, a lot of rot in the bottom, and also quite obviously dead as we work up the trunk where it is tangled up there in another living tree. So also potential damage to the living tree, so that has to be made safe. That is tree A. Next up we have tree B. Quite obviously some issues down there at the base. And if we look further up, again hanging. This is the one I wasn't sure if it was alive or not. I couldn't quite see up there. It has a bit of ivy at the top. So it's a bit difficult to see because it's tangled in with another tree as well. It's a bit difficult to see if it's still alive or not. But nonetheless, quite dangerous. Although the difference between this one and the other 2, and we'll look at tree C in a moment, is that this one is across a sort of area where I wouldn't normally be walking about, so it's not, it's not likely to come down on my head. It's not across a path, so we can, worst comes to worst, we can just leave that one there, but I would like to make it safe. But it's more of a case of I could let this just do its own thing. So that's tree B. And then we have tree C. Now this is a pine of some sort. We'll have a look at the base at the moment, but as you can see, completely dead all the way up. That's what they call a dead standing tree. This is what we're going to be dealing with today, so we're going to fell this one. If we bring that back down, you can see part of the issue there is all this damage down the bottom where the tree is just rotting away. Effectively that's rotten at the bottom, and so it's very dangerous in the sense that that could come down at any point. It's near a path that I regularly use. I don't want that falling on my head, so this is the one we're going to take down, and we're going to see that later in this video. Now, before we switch the husky on and start making a racket, let's be very clear about something. Chopping trees down in the UK without permission is illegal. So you cannot just go willy-nilly with a chainsaw or a saw or anything else, just chopping down what you want. You will potentially get caught and will be fined. And I believe the fine is unlimited. And as that is a criminal act, you could be looking at a custodial sentence as well. So don't do it. That being said, every now and then, as a woodland owner, you may need to fell a tree. It's not to say you can't do it, you just need the appropriate permissions. And if you get the appropriate permissions and you follow the guidance that is given, you should be okay. Now that's what I've done. So what I'm going to do now is go through the conversations that I had with the relevant authorities. So here in the UK, that's the Forestry Commission and also the local councils. And then I'm going to read through that email conversation so we can just be crystal clear that what I'm doing today, permission has been sought for. All right, so let's get back to my lovely little home and we can chat through that discussion that I had. Okay, so we're back at the old homestead, about to read through these emails. Now, the first part of that was getting in contact with my region's national branch of the Forestry Commission. You can find them at, and I've got their email address, not it's that difficult, www.forestry.gov.uk / and then whatever region you're in. You email them first, that's what I did. Go straight to the top. And then they can sort out the information that you need. Now, it's a very simple email. I'm going to read it out to you. So let me open that one up. It was, obviously, as I read these emails, there's quite a few people that have been involved in them. So I'm not going to name them for their security and mine, as you can imagine. But I will read the content of the email. So, first one. Forestry Commission in my region. Hello, I'd like some advice about the felling of hanging and dead standing trees. I own a small woodland plot of 1.86 acres in this area and have 3 trees that I would like to fell. And this is a crucial bit because this is identifying the trees that we've looked at already. Tree A is dead and hanging across a track caught in another tree. Tree B is possibly alive and hanging in another tree. Tree C is dead standing. All 3 trees have significant rot damage at the base. The area that I'm in is covered by a tree preservation order and is in an area of natural beauty. But my woodland plot is outside of all of the restrictions, as checked on the local interactive map. Now, different regions may be different, but certainly in the region I'm in, you can go on the local council website and they've got an interactive map which tells you, it basically works like Google Maps. You have a look at the area you're in and it shows you all the restrictions that are around there for all sorts of things, not just for woodland, for building, nature reserves, conservation areas, areas that are covered by Article 4, which you can look up. I'm sure I don't need to explain that. On all sorts of things, really. It's useful if you're trying to do anything with any sort of land that you own. So then I carried on the email. I have photos of the 3 trees. Would like to send these to someone to advise what action I can take. Now, I did have email back from them fairly quickly. So I think, when did I send that one? I think I sent that email on a Sunday afternoon and they got back to me very early on a Tuesday morning, the following Tuesday, so 48-hour sort of turnaround. They said, good morning, thank you for your email. I've passed this on to the woodland officer with responsibility for this patch. They will be in contact with you in due course. So that was a sort of opening part of this conversation. And then we went on to a bit more of a detailed part, which I'm going to read through now. Oh, I had to get myself a glass of water. Anyway, so the next part of the conversation gets a bit more detailed here because a few more people are involved. So obviously my initial email was passed on to the local woodland officer within my region. And then I had an email from them saying, hello, hope you're keeping well. My name's so-and-so. I'm the woodland officer for your area. One of my colleagues forwarded your query regarding felling works at your location. Based on your description, I would say that you do not need a felling license for these trees. This is because 2 of them are dead and therefore exempt. So that's the crucial part of it. If trees are dead, they are exempt from requiring a felling license. But do check, because to my mind, if you get that in writing, you know, you're protecting yourself. It's nice and safe, isn't it? So 2 are dead and therefore exempt. The other would fall under the permitted 5 cubic meters of felling per calendar quarter. So again, that's a little bit that's allowed. So you're allowed to fell a certain amount per year. But my concern was, does that apply within a tree preservation order covered area? You would still need to let the council know regarding the TPO, as mentioned, even if a license is not needed. Assuming it's this area, then the best point of contact is this person. Please could you email me across some photos of the trees so I can confirm that they are exempt from the license process. And if you recall, I'd already been down the woods and taken photos. What I took photos of is a tree as a whole from a distance which filled the photo frame, and then also a sort of close-up of the base. So then I emailed back, yeah, sure, no problem. I was just trying to work out how to shrink the photos. That was me having trouble getting photos onto email. May have to send them in separate emails, and that's what I ended up doing in the end. There were 6 photos, 3 of the tree, fill in the frame, and 3 of the base of the tree showing the rot. I CC'd in the council guy as well, because that Woodland officer had sent their email address. So at this point, my emails now going to the Woodland officer in the local Forestry Commission area and to the local council contact. Okay, so email back from the Woodland officer. Thanks for the photos. I'm happy with my previous assessment that a license is not required. I would recommend, though, that you leave the trees as dead wood post-felling so that they can provide habitat for invertebrates. Now, that's not a problem for me, as you'll see in the next email. And then she mentioned the local council officer. I will allow you to comment on the TPO. So that guy then got hold of me through an email, copied both of us in, myself and the Woodland officer. Hello, my colleague so-and-so covers that district. I'll copy him so he can comment. I'll also forward the attached photos. So as you can see, we're going through the sort of email chain of connections. It's a little bit laborious, I suppose, but at least you're getting that permission that you need. Eventually, the guy that's very specifically deals with my area within the council. Good afternoon all. With regards to the dead trees, an application to remove them isn't necessary. It can be removed under the dead or dangerous exception. So there's an exception that you can remove dead or in fact dangerous trees, even though they're within the TPO. So that's that. And I agree that ideally they should be left in situ in the wood. With regards to work on live trees, an application may be required. Can I ask for further information on the extra work, please, so that we can assess whether an application is required or not? Now, I was a little bit confused there about what he meant by extra work. So, always ask and you will find out. So, replied back. By this point, I'm copying in everyone. So, there's about 4 people in this email now. Hi, extra work, question mark. I just want to make them safe. Tree A is across the track. There's some things there that I can't read out over the internet to do with legality, so we'll leave that. That one is dead, so taking on everyone's comments, it will now be made safe. However, I'm more than happy to leave the made safe tree on the ground in situ. I have no great need for firewood. Discussed before, I've got plenty of dead wood knocking around the place. So leaving it where it is, but on the ground is fine. Tree B is the only one that may be living. It has an ivy infestation at the top, so it's difficult to tell. But this one can be left as is, as it's away from any track. Tree C, that's the one we're looking at today in the content of this video, is over a pathway that I use, looks to be the most likely to come down unexpectedly. I'd like to make that one safe as per Tree A. And then that guy, the local, he's the local tree officer, part of the natural environment team. He gets back to me. Thanks, Jem. I must have misread the emails. In that case, you don't need any further permission from the council. So that's that. It's as simple as that. And because I've asked, and it's gone through all those little chains of people, right from National Forestry Commission, Local Forestry Commission, Council, what they called Natural Environment Team, and the specific officers that deal with the area that I'm in, I've got that now in black and white. Well, I should say some of it is in blue and white, but no. You know what I mean? I've got it written down and stored there, so I can't get myself in trouble for doing anything that I shouldn't be doing. I've asked permission. I've given details about the trees, including evidential photographs. I've done everything I can, and they've given me permission now to be able to fell those trees. Anyway, let's get back to the woods. Now, before we go any further, I just want to say one thing. Felling trees is dangerous. You should not do it unless you are a trained and qualified professional. Nothing in this video is an instruction or guidance whatsoever at all. I'm just filming the process that I'm taking part in, and it is in no way any sort of indicator that you should try any of this yourself. So here we are back at Tree C. I'm going to mostly stay off the camera because I want to show you what I'm about to do. You've seen the base, which is rotten, and you may think, oh, you're just going to slice through that. No, because I'm not entirely sure how much of that is stable. I don't know if you can see down the bottom. Let me have a look. Oh, you can just about see it. So I'm not sure what of this is solid and what isn't. And also it's quite low down, so when I'm using a chainsaw, going through there would mean I'd be on my knees probably. So I want to stand up to make it as safe as possible for myself. And we're going to take it sort of about there, about waist height. As I touch that, I can hear it, so it feels a little bit hollow. And what we're going to do is a very standard sort of cut. So we're going to cut in about a third, as level as we can get it. There's going to be a wedge taken out, so you take the wedge top first and a third level. Then we're going to step back and assess what the situation is, because you don't want to be rushing this. You want to take your time because it's dangerous. And then after we've done that, we're going to come in at the side about an inch higher than the level cut. So imagine a triangle out of that. Inch higher, leaving what they call a hinge. So there's going to be a hinge of probably about 2 inches. And then the idea is that the tree will come down in the direction we want it. Now, what direction do we want it to go in? I'm going to have to move the camera and I'll show you that. And then you'll get an idea of why you should be a bit careful with this. Right, I've had to take you off the camera stand, so this may jiggle a little bit. But as you can see, right in front, we have 2 other trees that are perfectly alive, so I don't want them getting damaged. And they sort of lean together a little bit up at the top. But essentially, this bad boy needs to go through the middle of them. Let me move the camera around. Now, the problems we've got there are that there's a little bit of bunching there. It could get caught up. I don't know if you can see, but there's a sort of cross branch there that kind of looks like it would get in the way. So we've got to think of moving the tree that we're felling over in that direction a little bit more. So let me just put the figure on screen. So rather than it falling sort of straight forward there, we want it to go slightly over that way. And hopefully we'll miss everything and we won't end up with another hanging tree. But I mean, there's no certainties in this. That's where you've got to be careful. And what I will say now is, if you're in any doubt about what you're doing, get a professional in, all right? You don't have to do this yourself. Get someone in who knows what they're doing, be safe, and get it done properly. Now, what I'm doing here might seem very basic, but it is quite a sort of good thing to give you a bit of a guide. I've got this little branch on the floor here, this little stick, and I've put that in the direction that I want this tree to fall. So when we look up there, I want it to weave in between those 2 other trees. You can just about see it on the camera there, and fall safely in between them. And when I'm using the chainsaw, because I put that stick on the floor knowing it's that direction, it gives me a bit of a sort of guide on keeping things level and keeping them in the right direction. I also want to mention here safe zones. So when you're felling a tree, bringing down anything, you don't want to be stood in front of it, all right? Do not stand in front of it. That's fairly obvious. Also, see all sorts of ridiculous videos on social media where people are stood directly behind a tree. I mean, if that cuts and slips back and you're behind it, it's taking one of your limbs off. Simple as that, all right? And that's if it doesn't kill you. So the safe zones are like 45 degrees either side at the behind. The idea is then that you cut it, as soon as you see any sort of movement, you can step back out the way and you're reducing the risk of that tree coming back on top of you. Okay, so that's our wedge cut out. Now we're going to cut in from the back, about this sort of height, to about that point. And hopefully, it'll all work. I'll step back and it'll come down. Well, I guess that was inevitable that was going to happen. So, how do you get out of this predicament? Well, I've been trying to jiggle it around, so I've got a rope on it. Nice long rope, so I can keep a safe distance away. But seems like there's two branches up there, right at the top, that have put themselves either side of a very living limb, so no amount of jiggling up there is going to take them out. So got to take drastic measures, and that is we're going to have to basically split it like a knee without getting too close. I put a cut in the front and then I've cut a wedge out the back. Now when I'm cutting the wedge out the back, I'm doing that gradually because I don't want the chainsaw getting pinched in there. If you just went straight in, chainsaw's just going to get pinched. So it is down. Whew. I had to do that split so it folds down 5 times in the end, because imagine a tree fell like that. Every time I cut it, it just went eventually onto the floor. Most of it's been chopped up with some thinner bits over there. That's going to be left in the wood. Forestry Commission did say that they would prefer any timber to stay in sight so it can be used by bugs and lesser spotted warblers or bearded newts or whatever it is that likes to crawl around in bark. I've got no great need for firewood. As I've mentioned before, there's plenty of firewood littered around and we have a very small need of it. So I'm quite happy for them to stay there and just rot away like the base did there. as you can see, full of bugs. So that's that. Moral of that story, if you're not confident in what you're doing, get professional help. Always get professional help, and always get the legals sorted out. Even if you think it's probably all right, as it was in this case, just check, and then you stay out of trouble, and no one wants you getting in trouble, all right? So I hope that was helpful. Although not instructional, because you shouldn't do anything that I've done in this video, and as mentioned, you should always get a professional to do it. All right, now got a big weekend coming up, so from here at the woods, cheers.